In 2011, we opened up the Center for Applied Cognitive Research. We wanted to study the subconscious decision-making using electroencephalograph and EEG. Our lab is equipped with BrainMaster technology, BrainMaster avatar technology, and we are able to, with this material, to capture real images from the brain in real time and see the activity of the brain as it's occurring. The original research that this is based on was really Dr. Richard Davison. Davison, back in the 80s and 90s, discovered that there was a shift or an asymmetry in the prefrontal cortex depending on the insights that a person was having or their state of mind or their mood. But back in the 80s and 90s, they really weren't looking at a full gamut of the EEG waves. With new technology, we're able to actually expose gamma, and in the process, we're looking at decisions that your brain is making within a 30th of a second of when they occur. These gamma activities in the prefrontal cortex are giving us some amazing images. I want to share with you 3 images that were used in the original patent that was delivered out of this research. Now keep in mind that the image that you're seeing, you literally are having an image with the brain looking at you. So the eyes would be looking at you, and you would be looking right at the front of the brain. The first of 3 different arrangements that you can get out of this asymmetry is a neutral response. In other words, once a stimulus is given, the brain doesn't seem to care. It just has sort of a neutral response in both hemispheres. On the other hand, if there's an acceptance, if they really like the concept, the brain then immediately at this gamma level will have a left prefrontal cortex lighting up. And in this case, the lighter blue indicates more activity coming out of the EEG. And the opposite is also true then with the avoidance. Here we see the right prefrontal cortex lighting up. The right prefrontal cortex is telling us that there's an avoidance. There's a rejection of the concept that's occurring. So we really are able to sort of group things into 3 concepts. We are using words or phrases that are given to the subject, and they decide instantaneously their feelings or their perception of these stimuli. Let's look at a few examples. Here's an example of a neutral response. Here we see activation on both sides. There's really no indication of a like or dislike. It's sort of a neutral response. On the other hand, here we have a left prefrontal cortex that's lit up. So we have a positive response to peaceful, tranquil. See, that left prefrontal cortex has greater red. The red indicates more gamma activity. While we're at it, let's look at a negative response. This is a negative response to the word obedient. And in this case, the right prefrontal cortex is lit, showing that this person has somewhat of a negative response to the concept that obedient describes them. Let's look at a couple of others. Here is an extremely negative response to the stimulus smoking. And in this case, I suppose you wouldn't be surprised to know that this individual does not smoke. Now, you might assume that everybody has this kind of brain activity when the word smoking is put in front of them. So we took a gentleman who actually is an avid smoker. And here is his reaction to smoking. Very, very different. Armed with these new tools, we began to have a number of experiments that we were running to see what we could learn. And I'm going to come back to this concept of the smoking, but keep in mind that the fact that this gentleman has such a positive response to the concept of smoking could become a problem if in fact he decided to stop smoking. Keep that in mind.